All right, Matt, my man. I appreciate you being here. This is exciting for us. This is actually, we've talked a couple of times before, but this is my first time interviewing you for a summit. And I think with your expertise, and we'll get into this a little bit later with websites, I think it's going to be super valuable and awesome. And I think people are going to eat it up. But yeah, thanks for taking time out of your busy day. I know you guys got tons of stuff going on. You're building websites for people. It's never ending. So I think I really appreciate it. But for people who maybe haven't heard of you before, don't know who you are, if you just want to give like a real brief background of yourself, and then the question I always like to ask and get answers to, because it's always different, is why did you get into the authoring world, and specifically for you, why go the website route? So, floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. I really love sharing this information with your audience and just, with authors in general, because there's so much to know. I mean, a website's this technical animal. It's not a simple thing. There's so many things you can connect to it. So yeah, there's quite a bit to know. So I like to share what we've learned. And then as far as just where we've come from, we were basically your full service digital marketing agency, helping kind of everybody, trying to find our thing, like who we really wanted to serve. I myself come from the creative arts, like a sculptor, a painter. I used to build these elaborate sculptures on buildings, and then I also did a lot of digital painting. And I built this very elaborate fantasy map for a fantasy author. Well, I illustrated it like digital painting, basically. This was about 5 years ago, and she loved it. And she's like, "Okay, can you do two more for me?" And she was like a rising fantasy author and like a rising indie fantasy author, and had quite a lot of people looking at her and seeing what was going on. And then she said, "Hey, she knew we were doing websites as well, so she's like, "Hey, can you build a website for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then we looked at it, and we're like, "This could be pretty cool." So kind of made a project proposal for her, and she was like, "Okay, let's do it." And then virtually straight away, somebody else, another indie author who was always looking at everything she did, loved the website so much, scrolled way down to the bottom, clicked on it, and then basically made the inquiry. And I phoned him like 2 minutes after he made the inquiry. He couldn't believe it because I was so excited that, hey, maybe we can do this thing for authors, because it's so much more fun doing websites for authors than it is for, like, I don't know, engineers, dentists, and all the other people. I don't share this with my other dental clients. We still have a few of them, but we love serving them too. But it's just so much more interesting working with artists. Writers and authors are artists. They create beautiful things that come out of absolutely nowhere, and they enrich the world. So yeah, and being an artist myself, I just kind of, it just clicked. And then I've always had a strong grounding in the digital world. Like I said, I used to do digital painting as well. I illustrated a whole series of children's books at one stage. Um, and I've always kind of just worked a lot with computers. And as part of my agency, I got trained in SEO pretty extensively. So I actually knew how to get us website traffic. And that's a pretty important part of websites. If you get a website up, people need to be able to find you on Google, because otherwise, what's really the point? Yeah, and then I just studied a lot of things that were related, how to make a website actually work for you, like how to actually make it convert, which means get a result that you want. And somehow everything just came together. And I've been building my agency ever since for the last 5 years. Now we have a team. Used to be just myself and Sonia, original partner. And yeah, now we have a team. So now we actually have people that go ahead and build everything and use our formula. And now we've built websites for many million book-selling authors in virtually every genre, nonfiction, all the big fiction genres. And we've helped a lot of authors do pretty well. So still loving it and don't see any chance of changing what we're doing.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I always love hearing people. They're like, this wasn't my original path, but this is where life took me. And then it just kind of it works out. And then,
Yeah.
a business kind of
Yeah.
blossoms from the ground up. And then for you, you're already kind of a creative mind. Now it's like now you're doing something that you had to learn, but you still love it 5 years later, and you're still doing it and serving authors, and really successful authors in that matter too, which is huge. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts in terms of having a website? Is there a time that's like too early for an author to get started or too late? Is there like a sweet spot, or do you just kind of say like whenever you get around to it, you just need a website? And then also, does every author have to have a website, or can you get away without one?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, look, technically, let's just start with the second question because I think it leads more to the first question. So technically, do you need a website? I mean, no, technically you don't need a website. You can just blow up on Amazon. You can use other sales channels, but it's kind of like saying like, if I have to drive, I don't know, 50 miles to work every day, and I'll have a car and it's going to make my life a lot easier and it's going to make me much more productive and get a lot more done and etc. Like, you may as well have a car. It's like kind of like, why wouldn't you have a website? And to be honest, as fast as possible, as soon as possible, you can get away with just a Facebook page and a good Amazon profile and everything like that. But you kind of want to have every possible edge you can, as far as marketing. And pretty soon you'll have an opportunity, and somebody's going to Google you, and they could Google you and they could find your Amazon profile, and hopefully there's something there. But you don't always have complete control over that. People are going to leave reviews on that. Amazon's going to decide which reviews show. You can obviously customize that to a degree, but you're also there on Amazon with how many million other authors and other businesses and products and everything. And the difference between that and a website is, a website, it's just you. You choose everything you want to say. You choose the look, you choose the feel, you choose the imagery. You can create an incredible experience for somebody who arrives on your website, whereas you can't really do that on any other platform in any other way. If it's a social media platform, you're competing with you know beautiful people doing incredible things and cute cats and whatever the hell people are into on social media. Some unmentionable things we won't go into, but like, there's a lot of attention grabbing things on social media. Like, you have to compete with everything. But if you can get somebody to your website, you can probably hold their attention captive for long enough to actually really get what you're talking about. So I would say go earlier than later. Even if you don't have an amazing website, try to just put something simple up. I'll definitely go over, I'm sure, in this interview, a few things that you should have on that website. And then, if you're more established, um, you should really have something impressive, and you should have something that really makes you look professional. Because at the end of the day, there's a few things that are going to make you look really professional. Your book covers, if you have like low grade book covers, people are just going to think your writing is low grade. And then if they do look you up, and if you don't have much other kind of marketing presence and messaging around, and they look at your website and it just looks kind of not that great. That's another thing that'll definitely kind of make you look less professional and just influence people as far as their buying decisions, and how much they really want to read you. So yeah, I would say absolutely you need a website. And to be honest, I would say you can't really have one early enough. I mean, we have an author now. She built the website without having a book published. She wanted to find a publisher, and we built this beautiful, elaborate website. It's got this opening video as you come in, and it just leads you through the story. It's got character resource pages, and it's just amazing. And it helped to secure publishing deals. And now she got a traditional publishing deal, and that publishing deal helped to get another publishing deal for a book that she hasn't even written yet, which is getting published a little bit later. So it's it's a powerful promotional tool, mostly for people that could possibly promote you in the future, and also for readers that are just looking you up. But one of the most powerful things about a website is, say you could potentially get interviewed. Say maybe somebody could feature you in some kind of media article, or just wants to look you up to see if they want to connect with you and help promote your book. They're going to Google you. Everybody's going to Google you, and mostly the first thing on that list is going to be a website. And that, depending on what they find, is going to be a huge make a huge difference as far as their next step. So yeah, so I would say, like, you can't really have a website early enough, and the better your website, obviously, the better your chances of having success marketing your books.
Yeah, that makes sense because, like, if that's your first impression and you don't have control over where people find you first, like, you want that first impression to be, a home run out of the park. They see it and they're like, "Oh man, like I haven't read this guy or girl's book, or I don't know anything about him, but like based on this website, they've got their stuff together and they're probably pretty, you know, at least they're on the right track. And maybe they take a chance on your book, or just maybe they reach out to you. Like you said, you end up on a podcast or an interview, or you get
Right.
connected wherever you maybe didn't think you would. Because I know personally for myself, I had my website built a few years ago. It hasn't been really updated or changed since. But I know 100%, and this has been on my long to-do list. And it's like, I need my website updated for my authoring, but I also want to pull my business side of things off that website and build another website so they're separate. So I might be talking to you in the future about that because I don't want to have to do it myself. I want people
You're
who
always
know what
welcome.
they're doing. Yeah. So I need an
Of
upsite.
course.
I need an update website. I need to create a new website. Because I know the importance of, if somebody comes across that and it's not up to, you know, industry standard, at least, like you're kind of getting off on the wrong foot, or you're starting with a step behind, especially when we're coming to And this will lead me into my next question. And I think you have a few websites you can show us and kind of walk us through
Yeah.
elements and what looks good and where things should be and stuff like that. So it's like, what should the website have? I think, where should certain things be placed? How should certain things be laid out? I'm sure there's some kind of strategy behind it. Does it have
Yep.
to look super pretty and flowing? Can it be really simple? Like, so if you want to share your screen and show some websites for us and kind of walk us through kind of like a 101 tutorial so people can kind of get more of like a hands-on look into kind of the process and thinking behind things, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. So I was going to share a bunch, but now just thinking about this, I'd rather actually just share something that looks good, but it is actually a little bit more on the simple side
Okay.
because I've got some pretty fancy, amazing websites. But I'd actually rather start simple just because it's gonna kind of show what I'd like to demonstrate a bit more effectively. So this is a fantasy author, well, fiction author. She writes fantasy, science fiction, and kind of I guess urban fantasy like vampires and that kind of thing in like a city environment. Um, so the first thing I would always say is people really discover you through your books. So some people, although your website should always be about you as an author, like this is her name is T.A. White, that's her kind of author like pen name. But some people have this question. Firstly, is like, should I build the website around my book or should I build the website around myself as an author? And in almost every single case, you should build the website around you as an author. If you build it around a book or a series, the problem is you write a second book or a third book or a second series or a third series, and it doesn't make sense. Now it's called, the series name, but you've got the second series there, and people are confused. So if it's you as the author, then an author can always write more books, but the series won't always have more books. So that's just the first overall suggestion if you're doing a website. And then the domain name, this one is just T.A. White author. So maybe T.A. White was already taken. Maybe there's another T.A. White in the world. So you've got to just Google your name or Google your pen name and see what makes sense as far as the domain name is concerned. So that's just the first suggestion. The other suggestion is usually there are, in the sort of fancy digital marketing world, we call them calls to action, but basically they're actions you want the website user to do when they arrive. And you should be very intentional about which calls to action you create. And there's a kind of a user experience principle, user experience, another fancy digital term, which basically means like giving the person an experience, like controlling the experience the person has when they actually scroll through your website or browse on your website. But basically, people understand websites exactly the same way they read. They read from left to right, and then their eye kind of bounces off the top right corner, and they zigzag back down, and they read just like a book. It's sort of left to right, zigzag back down and left, left to right, zigzag back down and left. So kind of mirroring that in the way you build your website is a very good way to get the most out of it. So usually what we do is the most important button is in the top right corner. So now this could change. So let's say you're okay, this is a fiction thing, so maybe it's not really applicable, but I'll just use it as an example because it's the first thing I thought of. Let's say you're like a coach or somebody you want people to book calls with you. I would probably call this. I would change this to maybe like book a meeting or something like that, or inquire or something like that. But generally, I would say in most cases, I would make this as an author just your subscribe button, and you want to make it bright and obvious and stand out above everything. So like we have a few other ones. I'll just show you different examples. This one, the menu got a bit crowded. The author just wanted to go a bit crazy. We didn't want the menu to be this crowded, but anyway, she's just got free. Like she's just said, just write free there. Everybody wants something for free. So, but I mean, it's a pretty obvious button. Obviously this is romance, completely different. You can see it matches her genre, but it's just this big bright pink button. You can't miss it on every single page because it's in the menu. Um, this one it just says subscribe. Again, free. He liked the free thing. Free is not a bad thing because it's just like people want to know what it is. Um, Sometimes we say something like genre specific, like join the fight if it's like a military type of fiction thing, or you can really put what you like. But I would say make this button really strong, and then make that button go to a dedicated page where they can join your mailing list. Because talking more about those two kind of calls to action, I'd say there's really two main things you want people to do. Many people will arrive on your website and never ever return again. if you can get a small percentage of those people to grab a free thing from you and join your mailing list, then at least you stand the chance of continuing the conversation with them and maybe nurturing them to be, you know, maybe a reader, maybe like a die-hard fan, and hopefully like somebody who buys everything that you've ever written. But many people, you know, they'll only ever come to your website once. So obviously, the important things to have is to have an opportunity for them to talk to them further, and that's join your mailing list. And then the other obvious things is you want to showcase your books. Like all of our websites, going back to this first example, usually we suggest if you have multiple books, you showcase the most recent sort of featured book that you've released, because your fans that know you and have read a bunch of other stuff, they're going to come to your website. They're going to be most interested in, okay, what's the latest, you know, hot off the press thing you have to offer? So with this example here, T.A. White recently published Nightfall's Prophet. So we changed this to be the kind of featured book, and then we changed the series to kind of go with it. It used to be the previous series. There used to be a science fiction series that was featured because she just released Facets of Revolution, this book over here about maybe 6 months ago or so. But then we changed the whole thing. So usually you're going to feature your books, you're going to feature your series, like how many books are in the series. Um, Sometimes you can just have buy now buttons on the bottom. Um, we just kind of go into each book. You can click on each book. I would suggest, you know, if it's just a matter of you want a simple website up, that's fine. But I would suggest each book having its own specific page and each series having its own specific page. And there's a very specific reason for that. When you Google something, Google likes every single page on a website to be about one specific subject. So if you have one page about one book or one page about one series, when people Google your series, there's a very, very high chance that your page, again, we want to own that space online. If you've got a specific page just dedicated to the Eileen Travis series, I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced, but this probably stands a pretty good chance of coming up when people search for that. In fact, let's just experiment and just actually see if I'm talking the truth here. Yeah, there you go. So it's Goodreads and it's the website. So we even beat Amazon in that. So that's pretty good. So obviously you want to try to own that space as much as possible. If people are Googling, they find what you want them to see. So that's another suggestion. Have a kind of a page dedicated to each subject. And the homepage, the general kind of modern way of having a homepage is it's kind of like an overview of everything you've got going on in the website. We like to feature the main book you want to promote first, because many people will never scroll past this opening thing. They go, "Oh, great, you've got a new book, great," and then they'll just know, "Cool, that's your new book." At least you've showed them the main new book, and then feature your series. Um, we featured all those series. She's got 4 different series here, um, 2 fantasy and 2 other type of series, and then usually like we like to mirror the kind of the reader's discovery of you in the website. So most people discover you first through one of your books, and then they kind of start to get interested in, okay, what about the writer? Unfortunately, we always love to put ourselves first, but that's just generally what happens. I mean, like, I've read some books and I know nothing about the writer, and I read quite a few of their books, and I go, maybe I kind of would want to know something about this person. It's pretty, how did this mind come up with this stuff, So we like to kind of put the author second. You let the work speak for itself, and then kind of introduce the author, and then yeah, and then so we have a little about the author section. Again, there's a dedicated page. If you want to know more about the author, you can learn more and go into a whole page, and people can look you up. Again, good for Google. And then social proof. What have people said about you? Like, it's always good to make it's not just me saying my books are great, other people have said so as well. Like reviews, like you can take your best reviews on Amazon. You can get, some people have video testimonials, also quite nice, up to you. But social proof is always a good thing to put on your website. And then, like, this is an optional extra when you start getting a little bit more involved and you want to really like wow readers and draw them in and make this feel like a real experience that you're creating for them. Because fiction writers, I mean, you're trying to create an experience. You're entertaining, right? That's what the whole craft is about. So make cool, entertaining things for them to get involved with. So if you have extras, like all of our authors are different. So this is like, you can see deleted scenes, alternative point of views, short stories based on the various worlds. There's a glossary. Somebody who's written this much material, you can see there's a lot of books she's written. you definitely get lost. I mean, I'm reading the second one here, and already I'm starting to forget what's going on in this one. But I can go in the glossary and go, oh, okay, this guy's he did this back in here, and this is why I'm supposed to hate him or whatever it is. Um, so so yeah, it's nice to have readers' resources and just to give you some completely different ideas. This one has got this is a sort of a Indiana Jones in modern times kind of author, and his resources are, let's just check it out. He's got a blog. He didn't opt for resources, I guess. But then that's another example is having a blog is always nice for various reasons. Like Phil, I'm sure you're the author newsletter guy, so a blog is always nice content to send people out on your newsletter, get them back reading on your site, the articles that can help promote what you're all about. So highly recommended having a blog. It just also shows that you're currently updating your content. You've got new things to show them. You've got a reason for people to come back and get interested in you again. So just kind of straight content marketing. And then extras like book trailers you can add. Like this is just another romance site. Book trailers, like if you want to kind of promote your books on video. Some people want a photo gallery. Some people want videos. And then just, specific, she calls it pleasure chest because obviously this is like a bit of a, steamy romance site. So that's the angle she's going here. And then as you can see in some of these other, okay, and then sorry, the last thing I wanted to mention before I go into this thing is just, I would suggest putting your sign up as well as at the top here, at the bottom of every single page on your website. Because if somebody scrolled through the whole page, there's a good chance they're interested enough to sign up. So, not everybody's going to buy your books, but again, you want to take every possible opportunity for people to join your mailing list. So we found this works really well. At the bottom of every single page, one author, in fact, that very first author we did the website for, she had already had a website. It was a little bit outdated, but just using this strategy alone, we increased her email signups by 6 times what she was currently getting. Just having a sign up on every, so we didn't even do the top thing like this. So she was pretty impressed by that. And ever since then, we've like, okay, we're just going to do this. There's a good reader. They call it a reader magnet, basically something to read from what you've written that's really good and will hook the reader and hopefully make them want to read more. They're going to get something for free and they're going to join your mailing list. And then obviously, Phil, I'm sure you've gone into this a lot, but if you're building a mailing list, you should email it as well. There's no point building this beautiful marketing resource if you never send them emails. But yeah, and the only other real thing as far as elements of an author website are concerned that I haven't really mentioned so far is this is just an optional extra we really like to do. Um, we call it a wow factor opening background video. So this is if you really, really want to just come across professional, like almost like cinematic movie kind of quality, is you can get something like this made. This is something we do for our clients as an optional extra. Um, they arrive on the website and behind everything that's going on, there's a bit of a sort of a scene setting kind of movie scene that's going on that kind of it works with your author brand. Like this guy's crime thriller. You can see all these little crime thriller elements and this one is pretty crazy, but this one is it's just kind of not it's not historical fiction, but he goes on this kind of Indiana Jones thing in modern times, and you get all these elements of different things going on in the books, and just hints at different things. But it just kind of makes there's a centurion's helmet. This is one of his book covers. It just kind of makes the website come alive, and it speaks to people in a way that static images can't. So this one is like a near future science fiction author. It's kind of like a climate change political thriller in 2050. Brilliant book. I started reading one of the best debut science fiction books I read for a while. But it just kind of sets the scene. So this is if you just want to take it that extra level. And this is especially good if you want to reach out to people promoting your website because it just says like, wow, this is something happening here. So that's one extra little like pro tip, which you don't necessarily have to use, but it's just a nice little extra if you want to go the extra mile.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because the first question I had after seeing those websites, I was like, hey, all of them but one have this moving cinematic background. And I don't see that a lot, or, it wasn't really a thing back when I created my website or had my website created. It was just kind of like the background that was static, but it still needed to match your setting and the genre and stuff like that. But like, I like the whole moving, it just looks really cool, right? Like cinematic's the best word for it. Like it kind of puts you into like you're watching like a movie trailer or something. Like it's really neat. But one question I had, I noticed this, so I'm curious of your your thoughts on this from like a professional standpoint is you had the sign up page, like the where you could like get people on your email list, like that button on the top right, and then at the very end. Now, I
Yeah.
didn't see anything that like, and I see this on websites, and I think this is how mine currently is, but like when you first log into the website or land on the homepage, like a pop-up comes up, or like even if it's a floating
Yeah.
pop-up. So what's the, is there a strategy or a thinking behind having the button and at the bottom as opposed to having like the floating kind of box where people can sign up for your list? Because I notice where that is for most websites, you're promoting a book right there.
Yeah. So that pop-up kind of strategy was like all the rage maybe like 5, 10 years ago. And basically it was discovered more and more that people hate them. And um, although they do sometimes work, like people, it does make people enter the email, in the pop-up. More and more kind of that, I don't know, there's some fancy digital term for it. I won't give you the term, but um, Google particularly said that basically they hate pop-ups. And in general, just from again that user experience point of view, like how many times do you go onto some site, you just want to browse the site, and then something slams you in the face, you really don't care. You haven't even like explored the site. You don't even really know what's going on. And this big thing says blah blah blah, and you just sell. You basically say, stop shouting at me through your website. I'm quite happy to just consume this information yourself. So I think from a point of view of just we've gone to a bit of a different way of consuming information online. It used to be like we were still in the old kind of marketing era of like everything is told to us, and we will just kind of we only have like 5 channels on the television or whatever, and we just kind of have to just take what's given. Now it's kind of like a basically based on choice. It's based on the person browsing the internet's choice. You could at any one time browse literally billions of different websites. There's a few. I think there's more websites online than people, which doesn't even make sense. But there's so much choice that it makes much more sense to give the person arriving on the website a really great experience and a good time. And unfortunately, pop-ups just work against that. They just irritate people. So my personal view on pop-ups is sometimes they are effective. Like the only time I would actually use a pop-up is what's called an exit intent pop-up. So like if you're sending maybe ad traffic to a page where you just want people to sign up for a book and there's nothing else, and there's a way you can do a pop-up where you move your cursor off the page. Basically, it's showing them that you might leave the page, and then the pop-up comes up and says, "Hey, before you go, don't you want to grab this?" That's honestly the only time I would ever use a pop-up, just because it irritates people. I want people to have a beautiful experience, especially for fiction, which is awesome and entertaining, and gets people going. And like they probably come there because they want to just learn more about what's going on or see if it's a good read. So I just don't want to really slam them in the face with a pop-up because it's just going to annoy them, and I don't want to do that. I want to, make them have a good time when they come to the website.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So in terms of, um, I have a question about direct sales. I'm going to get to that in a second. But in terms of
Sure.
like you've built this beautiful website and you've either put all this time and effort in doing it yourself, or you paid somebody like your company Rocket Expansion to build this beautiful website out. Like, how does traffic get there? Let's say you don't have an email list to drive traffic to and you're just starting out. Like for me, I don't actively drive traffic to my website currently. It's for one of two reasons, like we mentioned. One, it's not updated. Two, I need my website split, but like it's there because it's something I did way back, but I don't actively drive traffic to it. So how are you making sure let's say you spent, a couple $1,000s or hours and hours building this website, that this is actually being taken advantage of?
No, great question. So for somebody that's starting out, I would say the best strategy is basically get featured on as many different platforms as you can and drive people back to your website, and especially drive people back to joining your mailing list. And like my personal take on the best use of the website is basically two things: help you get in contact with promotional people, like people that have audiences that you can sort of spread the message to and get your work known more about, and join your mailing list. That helps the promoters. And oh yeah. Okay, the second part is basically you're going to build up this community around you that can then help you sort of kickstart Amazon and actually get some sales on Amazon, because most people, their main sales platform is going to be Amazon, right? So if you can't kind of like ignite that sales machine on Amazon, you're probably not really going to get other people like looking up on Amazon, because Amazon's whole algorithm is based on book sales. So as soon as you start selling a lot of books on Amazon, Amazon starts showing you to more and more and more people. But to sell books on Amazon, you need some reviews, you need some kind of like, you need a bit of a community to kind of like back you up. And that's where you can use the website as a tool. Not an only tool, but it can be a tool to kind of help sort of fuel people to Amazon. And then as far as getting that traffic, like your original question, to your website, for people that are starting out, doesn't really make sense to run ads. But I would say like, just because it's too expensive, you're not really going to get a return on your ad spend. But I would say like just the sort of traditional kind of content marketing strategy, um, reach out to people on different platforms, different media platforms. You can go like traditional radio, TV, etc. Use all your connections, podcasts, big blogs. Do your best to get featured in many different places, and then mention this free book. Like mention on your website, you have this cool free thing, and they can go there and check it out. And then that's where you can sort of start getting people there. That would be the first kind of strategy, I would say. The second strategy is writing content around your particular niche and try and be quite specific. Um, there's a whole kind of science to that, which is SEO, and this is what we've really done to get a lot of exposure. But if you're really quite specific around a niche, write very specific content around questions people might have in that niche. Um, this is like, this could be an entire hour in itself, so we can't go into that in too much detail. But if you're looking up like blogging for SEO, you'll find a lot of information on that on the internet. And that's a bit of a long-term strategy because it takes a little bit of a while to reach good points in the Google rankings. But my major suggestion there is find very specific questions people have and then answer them and use your books and your content and your website and your work as examples all the time. And over time, you can get a lot of exposure and you get people to just kind of find your website, interested people who are already asking questions about that, to find your website and find your material. And then, of course, if you're a little bit further along, you can just drive ads to your website. If you know that for every subscriber you get, over time, you're going to get a certain amount of book sales. And this will only really make sense if you have quite a few books to sell, because that way the chance of you selling, making, maybe $30 off your average like power reader, like super fan, is a lot higher because you don't have like one or two books. So then that's more like a bit of a further along down the line. Drive ads to your website just to get people to sign up, as well as driving ads just to Amazon to sell the book directly. And then there's another strategy I know a lot of other people use is actually in your books themselves. Like people that are coming to you from Amazon, they might never find your website and they might forget about you. They might read your book, read a whole lot of other books, and then they might have really, really wanted to read book 2 and book 3. So what I would suggest is put links to your website in your book to actually sign up for your free thing. You enjoyed this, I'm giving this whole thing away for free, and put that in the beginning of your book and the end of your book. And that way you have like pretty much the same strategy on the website, the buttons at the top, the buttons at the bottom. You just stand that much more chance of people checking out your website and hopefully signing up. Because again, like one of the major reasons I believe an author website exists is to grow your community. And the community is mostly going to be effectively built on email, which is your field.
Woo, that's right. Yeah, so that you're right. Front and back matters huge. I think that could be missed. That could be missed as an opportunity. It may not be your biggest ROI in terms of getting people on your website, but like you're saying, if there's enough volume and traffic and enough people reading your book, there's going to be enough people that are going to see that front and back matter, and you're just by happenstance, they're going to end up on your website, and that's why your website needs to be optimized and stuff like that. So I have a question. I have two questions. I'll ask you one first. Let's say this person is at the stage of driving ads. I assume the ad is let's say they're driving it to their website. You're just driving to the homepage, right? Are you driving to a book page, or are you just driving straight to that
No,
homepage?
I would say you drive, like I'll show you. So we don't write books, but we do this. I'll just show you just because I don't really want to show the back end of anybody's stuff but ours. Um,
Yeah, I'm
just
not
to
trying to
sign
get sued over
confidentiality
here.
and everything. Yeah, exactly. That's right. So this is what we do, and we've done it quite successfully. And like you must remember, we're not like fiction writers. We're like a marketing company. People hate marketing companies. I mean, I'll just
That's
say
right.
they don't want to know about it. So So we have this as our landing page, and you can see now there's a specific kind of strategy on this. I'll just zoom it in a little bit like that, zoom it out. So on a page that you're sending ads to, you have absolutely no header, you have absolutely no footer, you have absolutely nothing else that somebody can do but take the action. Remember, you've paid now to get this person to come to your page. You want to make sure there's no other thing they can get distracted by but the thing you want them to do. So what we do is we drive ads from Facebook to this page over here, and we've tested many different types of looks and feels of these both of these books and everything like that. This one seems to be working the best for us. Um, and the other thing is, if you're going to grow your mailing list, don't ask for their first name. Do you really care? I mean, like, are you going to email them hi, name, whatever? Every time you ask for a little bit more information, you lower the chance of somebody signing up. And if they give you their email, you can email them, and that's all you want to do. So I don't ask for their first name because I get much more subscribers if I just again, you're the pro on this, but that's what we found is just it just increases the chance of people subscribing. And for us, when we run Facebook ads just to this, like I say, this isn't even like a fiction book or anything like this. We're getting subscribers for about $1.60 a subscriber, which is really not that bad. Um, so we're again like um, between this and other ways of growing our mailing list. Like if you look at our website, pretty much exactly the same strategy. And again, we're not an author, but it's really exactly the same strategy that that we're using. We have, instead of the sign up on all of our blog pages, we have an opportunity to sign up at the top and the bottom of all our blog pages. So example, one of our blog posts on author websites, right at the top of the page, you can sign up, which because our other thing is contact us, we have this on every single blog post. And right at the bottom of the page, again, they can sign up on every single blog post. But between driving ads to this and just people searching for us on Google, we can get quite a lot of subscribers alone on this. So yeah, I would say I would say to answer your question, really, if you're sending somebody to something on your website, encourage them to sign up for something free. And then, unless you already have a big audience and you know people already like know you and they're happy putting their credit card on the website, and then they might actually buy something on the website. But I know that question's coming. Um, but then, otherwise, honestly, I would just send them straight to Amazon. I mean, you're paying for that traffic. Send them straight to your book page on Amazon, and hopefully they're just gonna enough of those people are gonna go, okay, cool, I'm doing it. But in that case, you probably want to have more than one book to sell because then they're going to read the first book in the series, read the second book in the series, and hopefully your average they call it average order value or customer lifetime value. That's the thing. So the potential for one reader to actually spend money with you is much higher if you have a lot of books. So for somebody like T.A. White, for example, she's got 20 books. Somebody loves her one series, they might love the other series, they might love the other series. They could read all 20 of her books and spend a couple of like $100 almost, right, on the whole everything she's got. Whereas if you have one or two books, it's very very hard to make your money back on ads. So that's just something to consider with ads.
Yeah, which I agree. I always tell people if they come to me for ad questions, one, I'm not an ad guy, but I'm like, how many books do you have? What are the reviews on your books? And most of the time it's like, let's not even focus on ads right now. Let's get our list built up.
Yeah,
Let's get more books out, stuff like that, because I don't want people burning a hole in their pocket because they think ads is the way to gold, right? Because and it can be if you have everything set
right.
up correctly and you've got enough books for read through is what you're talking about, and stuff like that.
Read through exactly. Yeah.
So I've got a question. I think I know the answer to the first part of my question, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate here to see kind of what your thinking is.
I love
So,
it.
on on that homepage for any of those authors, they got the sign up, but then they have like whatever book's being featured, right? And it's like learn more or whatever it is. When they click that, does that take them to the its own book page on the website? And then when they click that, that would take them to Amazon, correct?
Yes, I'll show
Okay.
you again back to our examples. So let's say just TA White. So
Yeah.
what we like to do is they click on the book, and then they can see basically all the sales channels because people want to buy books where they want to buy the books, and you just basically give them the option. So maybe most people obviously Amazon is a big one, but maybe they want to buy on another platform. So we just like to let them buy on every single platform they can, or like just think of another example. So um, maybe I'm jumping the gun again because I know you're going to talk about
That
this, but maybe you want them to buy directly on the website. So then there's an option like maybe you have a shop, and then they can just buy the books directly on the website, like signed paperbacks or whatever.
Okay.
Um, Go through the whole checkout process and all that. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So
that's
here's
another
my.
option.
So let's say the author isn't wide and they just sell on Amazon. Is there,
Yeah,
because we know you mentioned this, the less the person has to do, the higher the conversion rate. So even just taking the ability of them
yeah,
having to put their first name in, more people are going to enter their email. So, and I know like the more clicks that a user has to go through, you're just going to have fall off all the way through. So, like, here's the devil advocate
absolutely.
question. If they click learn more, they click on a book cover, and instead of taking them to the Amazon page, it takes them to another page. Then they have to click another button to actually go buy the book. Is there, do you see any problem with that? Or is it kind of like, um, in for argument's sake, they're only Amazon? Because I get the point of it if they're wide because they need to see the options. If they just go to Amazon, but they wanted to go to Kobo or Apple Books or whatever, like they would need the options. But like if they're just Amazon, is there a do you think do you see a problem with having them have to click an extra button just to go actually buy the book? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely makes sense. I mean, my thinking of that is, yeah, you could absolutely do that. You could just send them straight to Amazon. My thinking of that is like, hold them on the website a little bit more. When they're on the website, they're exploring the website. There's more chance of them kind of falling in love with you on the website if it's built well, because the website is all about you. Whereas Amazon, there's a good chance of they seeing another book just underneath your book that's been promoted or an ad, and you just kind of lose them. So in this case, look, you can absolutely test it, and you should always test everything. You shouldn't, take everything you hear from so-called digital marketing experts, me or anybody, and like not actually try it out for yourself. So you should test it and see, like, I mean, there's various tools you can use, like it's called Google Analytics, which kind of shows you the different paths that people take to your website, and over time you can work them out. We do that on our website all the time. But my sort of thinking on that is just, well, they're on your website. You've got them as a captive audience. There's nothing else there. They can't see any promotion or anything else from anybody else. Let them kind of enjoy your website a bit. And if they do hit a book page, cool. Now we'll try to sell them. Or if they subscribe, okay, cool. Now we'll try to sell them on the email list. That kind of thing. I'd rather sort of let them play around a bit and enjoy.
I thought I had you with that question. You nailed it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I like that. Yeah, you that makes because that's like if I'm thinking that, I'm sure other people are thinking that, and I didn't think of it that way. You're like, let them explore your personality and your brand and kind of what you got going on, because then they go to Amazon and they're like, oh, I love this author, and they just released a new book. They click on it, like they ain't never coming back to you. Like, good luck.
They're gone. They're gone. You lost
Um,
them. Yeah.
yeah, so that's a great point. Okay, so you touched on this a little bit, and this is a big trend going on right now. And we talked about this a little off
Yeah.
camera. And I told you I was going to ask this question, and you kind of mentioned it briefly. Is the whole direct sales thing? Okay, it's for some reason caught fire. I don't do it. I see people who are successful, but then I know you're going to answer this question because you already answered it for me off air. Some really good points to keep in mind if this is something you're thinking of. So, like, is direct sales a good idea? And if so, or if not, like when would it be a place to actually apply that? And then when should you kind of like avoid that and use that as a strategy down the road?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. A lot of people are looking at this recently and like going, should I get into this? Should I get not? We're doing this for two authors right now. Like they've got pretty big followings in their niche. In fact, one of them is pretty much top of their subgenre. And they're like, okay, we got to do this. We got to do direct sales. So my understanding, look, I'm not an author myself. We work with a lot of big authors, so I kind of get everything from them. But I do have that advantage of seeing a lot of different authors and what they're all saying. So basically, as I understand it, is Kindle Unlimited. The price per page is just going down, 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 down. And authors are looking at this and they're going, it's harder and harder for us to make money on Kindle Unlimited. And if we go direct, we're going to make a lot. We don't have to sell it for as much in a way because we're making all the profit. Or even if we're just selling our ebook not on Kindle Unlimited, we don't we don't have to give anything to Amazon. We just have to give a few percent for credit card charges. So why don't we just sell it on our website? And it's a brilliant way of thinking. The major kind of counter argument to this is people have already put their credit card details and have an account and everything on Amazon. And Amazon has buy with one click. Like we were talking about earlier, the same thing about clicks. The more clicks, the more kind of buyer friction they call it, the more you're just likely to get stopped. Amazon has got this to a science. You literally click one thing and you've bought it already. So like there's no friction. So as far as Amazon just getting you sales, it's amazing. On the other hand, if you so that kind of brings you to this whole thing of how much people trust the platform and how easy it is for people to buy on the platform. So if you now go back to your website, they see it's a beautiful website. It might look professional, but there's always this just little bit of doubt in a person's mind. If I put my credit card in this thing, is my credit card information secure? Is this person going to email me a bunch of spam, etc., etc., etc.? They know what they're getting with Amazon. They might like it, they might not like it, doesn't really matter. They just know what's happening, so they don't have to make this decision. With your website, there's just this extra little thing of like, can I trust putting my credit card details in here? And it just adds a little bit more thing, and then the baby starts crying and they're gone. Whatever it is, whatever happened at that very moment they're trying to buy, or like, oh, which credit card should I use, or whatever. It's just adding a little bit more friction into that experience. So what I would suggest is if you're starting out, don't even worry about e-commerce. E-commerce is direct sales on your website. It's just you just want to build up your profile on Amazon, maybe build up your profile on a few other platforms, get a lot of people, build up your email list. You're going to make more money just because it's going to be easier for people to instantly buy that book on Amazon, and it doesn't matter, that commission that you're giving them is completely worth it because the chance of them actually buying on your website is just quite small because they don't trust you, they don't know who you are. But if you've already got quite a big community, like these two romance authors I was talking about earlier, they've got quite a big community. A lot of people read the books. They've got like the one author's got 100 books, I think. They've published in many languages. They pretty much dominate their niche. They've got a huge community. Those people, and they can reach out through email again, because email is really like such a powerful marketing channel for authors. They can reach out through email or social media and they can say, guys, this is what's happening. Um, it's getting harder and harder to make money selling our books on Kindle Unlimited. But you can buy them direct from us. It's actually going to cost you less overall, and you can buy it on this website. Those fans are going to go out of their way. They love these authors' work already. They're going to go out of their way to go and grab their credit cards, put it in there, and then the authors are definitely going to make more money overall. Um, so in that case, like I'd say, if you have an audience that's already supporting you, you've got a good email list, you've got a bit of a community around you, you've got people that want to support you. Okay, then I think it makes sense to go for direct sales because chances are people want to pay that money directly. They don't want to pay the extra commission to Amazon. They're supporting you. But if you're starting out, you kind of don't really want to give people another reason not to buy the book because they're taking a chance on you. You don't have too many reviews. They don't really know if you're good or bad or whatever. So then I would say like rather just get out there. Like don't worry about losing that extra percentage of commission because chances are you wouldn't get it anyway if you tried to sell it on your website. So I know there's a few things to consider, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I think, to kind of um, simplify that answer, because I think you hit the nail right on the head. And it's kind of what I've heard when I'm talking to other experts or like even other authors who run businesses and stuff like that. It's like I kind of hear the same thing. Like there needs to already be some traction and some community built around you as an author before it's kind of like the whole ads thing. Like you need to have a backing with enough books and reviews before you start spending money on ads. So it's like, why go through all this trouble because you see, direct sales is the new shiny object in the authoring world right now. So it's like, don't just run to it because everybody else is doing it. Maybe those people are already established and they're willing to and I got a point on this too, and I want to get your feedback on it because I was talking to somebody
Yeah.
who actually has like a service software for authors specifically, and he had mentioned this, and I was like, that's really interesting. They're willing to sacrifice sales on Amazon because they want a higher revenue on their actual sale. So do you also see it like if you're if you're stealing, say 100 sales to your website that could have been put on Amazon, now those sales aren't being put into the Amazon algorithm, which every sale you make, it sees it and it boosts you up. So like, do you see a trade-off there where it's like worth it or not? Or do you think the people who are doing direct sales successfully, they're already making enough money and enough sales, like they're not really caring in that much that they're not high enough in the Amazon algorithm? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, yeah, to be honest, I can't really answer that question really, really well. I'm not really sure either way. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question extremely well, to be honest. I'm not sure if there could be a trade-off or not. I know obviously like the Amazon algorithm loves sales. So yes, perhaps potentially the reach you could get from Amazon is sacrificed. But yeah, I think the way I understand it is most people are kind of just looking at it the way everything is going, and they kind of don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. They don't want to get stuck with Amazon if something goes wrong. So I see the way people are generally looking, like a lot of authors that have been in this for a while, and they're making quite good money out of their books. I see it more as a bit of a they want to just protect their future more than necessarily like, okay, we're going to put everything in like direct sales. That's the way I've kind of observed it. Um, so I don't necessarily know if it's like just a complete either or. Like authors we have that are doing direct sales, it's not like they have nothing on Amazon. They do sell on Amazon. They have some books on Kindle Unlimited, but they're just testing it out. They're going, cool, we're going to do this for direct, this we're going to keep on Kindle Unlimited, etc., etc. So I think it's a bit of an experimental phase for this whole direct sales like craze that's going on right now, and maybe we just have to let it play out a little bit and see where it all goes. Yeah, yeah. So I don't have a clear answer for that, but that's just my views on it.
Yeah, I like the end. I like the way you ended that. Is like I think we need to let it evolve and grow because the way it was done, as when it first started getting crazy and people really, and I'm telling you, like this to me only got brought on my radar like a month or two ago. So like this is very brand new. Maybe it's been happening sooner, but like just the world I'm in, I just started seeing it recently. Um, but the way it was done at the very start, it's gonna change. It's like AI. AI is always
Yeah,
developing, and
yeah,
just even different authoring trends and like just the landscape of things is just constantly changing. So it's like I don't think there's an urgency to need to jump into it right now, unless you're at that point where like the risk is worth the reward because you're successful enough already and you have enough of a community behind you. Um, so one more question I do have about direct sales, because this is something that kind of popped in my head
Can I
is,
just add something about this? Is
yeah,
also relevant to direct sales. I just thought of it now. Probably like the ultimate example, if you want to go of like and make an argument for direct sales, and this is direct. This is direct pre-orders. You must have heard of Brandon Sanderson, the biggest Kickstarter in the history. I think it was like $42 million or whatever. So this is just
crazy.
an excellent example of like, yeah, you've got a massive audience. They'll support you. They'll fund the publishing of your book. You get paid before you've even done anything. Okay, obviously, he must have written some good work and people love his work, but he's got a huge community that's willing to, pump money into like getting this book published, and he makes 100% profit. So if that's, I think that just shows you like how the whole direct sales thing could actually blow up into such a huge thing. But again, massive community. I mean, one of the like, you know, most widely read and loved fiction authors out there in his genre.
Is he the Wheel of Time guy? Is that who that is?
Uh,
I know that
I think
name, and
I think he's Mistborn. I think Mistborn was his big thing. Let me just
oh, okay.
could be completely wrong. Uh, yeah.
He's a heavier
I think
set
that was
guy,
his
right?
like his coming out series was Mistborn.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he's written a bunch of other stuff there. But I think he used to be a traditionally published guy, one of the big like fantasy sci-fi publishers. And then so he's not really even in the self-publishing world much. But he just kind of just went that angle, like, well, I've got a big audience. I'm gonna do a Kickstarter, and then he made the biggest Kickstarter ever. I mean, 42 million. I don't know what his profit margin was on that, but I mean that
Who
is a
cares?
sweet ton of cash, man. Even if you
If it's
spend 10 million to do your
10%,
book
you're
publishing.
that's crazy. That is
I mean,
so
he
crazy.
probably, I doubt he spent that much on the, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money to play with, you know?
Well, dude, that's a cash out. I'm never coming back kind of payday.
Right.
Oh man. Yeah, so the direct sales, like, that's a great point, by the way. Is when you're selling directly from your website, are you doing like ebook versions and like print and like paperback and hard copy, or are we just doing physical copies? I've always wondered that and I never really knew the answer.
Yeah. So a lot of our authors just want to do the signed copy version because obviously you can't really do that in any other way easily. It really depends. So one thing you've got to consider if you're doing direct sales with hard copy is you actually kind of become an e-commerce store, which to be honest is actually a little bit of a pain because now you have to either have an assistant or you got to get your books, you got to put them all together, you're going to get a label printed or handwrite it out. You got to package it all up. You got to take it to the post office, ship it USPS or whatever it is, or FedEx or however you do it. You're going to go back to your website. You go on your website. You mark it fulfilled. Your website will then send an email and everything like that. But every single time, especially if it's like a signed copy or something with like a personalized inscription, like "Dear Donna," blah blah blah. Somebody wants their little thing on it. Yeah, authors do that, right? I mean, that's work. So you got to be kind of a little bit dedicated to your fans if you really want to do that, for one thing. And you got to think of the logistics of it. You actually have to have this thing physically shipped. I think there are ways of kind of having print on demand copies kind of shipped on your behalf, which makes it a little bit easier. But there is extra work involved. So, like, just think about that as far as if you have a print on demand service directly plugged into Amazon and it just kind of all works off autopilot. It's just a lot easier for you. As far as ebooks are concerned, it is a lot easier. The other thing with ebooks though, like well, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to read on Kindle. There's just an extra little step that somebody's going to have to take to load the actual file onto their Kindle device. So you're going to have to make that super, super clear on how they're actually going to load that uh, electronic book file onto their Kindle device. So you're going to have a bit of a follow up email. You're going to have something that shows them how to do that, because not everybody's bought a book just directly through the website. Um, yeah, so hope going back to original question. Remind me original question again. I'll try and see if
Yeah,
I've answered it first.
yeah. No, you did. I think print copies is the way to
Okay,
go.
good.
I would leave like because then that like if you are in KU, let's say with your ebook, but you're not Amazon exclusive with your print book, like you could just sell that direct through your website if it's the right fit. People listen, all right? Like don't just go do it because we're talking about it. So they can go buy your ebook on Amazon just to keep it easy for you because you just the chances are if you don't know what you're doing and you don't find the right person, it's going to get screwed up. It's going to be super complicated, and the fact it's just going to be a nightmare. But the whole, the print, the paperback or hard copy, and for some reason, hardback is like more appealing to me if I'm buying it direct off a website. I don't know why,
Yeah,
because I like paperback anyways, but like the
just
hard copy makes,
solid.
yeah, right. Um,
You can put it on the table and
that's
falls.
right. Like I got this bad boy. um,
Yeah,
so that's really cool to me because then it's like just kind of thinking from like a marketing business perspective, it's like if you're worried you have this massive community and people are going to eat up the personally signed copies, but you're like, if how am I going to sign 1,000 copies a month or something? Like that would be a nightmare. Then you could just kind of cap those off, be like maybe the signed copy is a little bit more expensive, there's only 100 available,
yeah,
and then they can just get the regular version that sits from a warehouse, or you have somebody helping you do that, and you only have to worry about at max 50 to 100 that you're going to sign, and stuff like that. And that would just make your life easier because if you're a big author selling a lot of books from your website, good luck signing all of them and getting any sleep.
exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You got to make your life enjoyable too. I mean, it gets being an author and selling books is hard enough. I mean, you gotta at some point you gotta take a step back and not kill yourself just to get an extra couple of bucks, in my opinion. So
No, absolutely. I mean, most of the bigger authors we have, like romance authors, especially for some reason, but I mean, many different fiction authors, fantasy authors, they have assistants. They've realized that they've got a business now, their books are making money, and they leave a lot of the marketing, they leave a lot of everything else up to their assistants, and then I guess somewhere along the line, the shipping. I don't know if the assistant does the shipping as well, or that's like the assistant's assistant, but yeah, if you get to that stage, okay, fine. You can make an argument for somebody just packing boxes, but if you're smaller, I'd say like don't even bother. It's just too painful. Rather
yeah,
just try to use the existing channels.
yeah, I agree because I worked in e-commerce before I left my job to do this, and I can tell you firsthand because I was the person in charge of the warehouse, the inventory, the packing, the shipping. You don't want that to be your main job. I promise you, it's a nightmare. um
And
so
it gets
yeah,
lost in the mail, and they want a refund, and now you have to pay for shipping back and forth, and one order just becomes like your worst nightmare.
I ordered it a month ago. Where is it? But like, it's coming. I promise. You live in Bangladesh. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's like, just a lot of extra
Exactly.
headaches. Something else to keep in mind. Um,
Oh, and then
okay.
there's one small thing while we're on that subject of shipping. I would say be very selective in your shipping. Don't just say I'm going to send it to the world. Just when you start, just pick like a few easy countries. Like, okay, you're in the US, just ship to the US, maybe the US and Canada, maybe the US and Canada and the UK, maybe English speaking world. But just start small and get it right before you go, I'm going to do it all over the world. Because next thing you know, somebody orders it in Antarctica and the shipping prices don't make sense, and now suddenly you've got like you've lost so much money, it's not even funny.
Yeah, that's a good point because it's like to me that makes me think of like when you're first writing your book and you're an English speaking person and you're writing to an English speaking market, you don't write your first book and then have it translated to 10 languages right off the bat. That makes no sense. It's like you need to have the backing, the sales, the money coming in, and then you only see the big time super successful authors later down the road before things start getting translated into other languages. So kind of the same thing. That's a great point. Don't just ship to the world because you're excited because if it cost you, $10 to print the book and then another $8 to ship the book and then, you're only charging $20 for it, you might come out with like an extra $2 for all that effort, or maybe you're negative, which would be a
That
nightmare,
makes no sense.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I think that's all the questions I have for you in terms of all
Okay,
that,
great.
because I think, we covered a lot and I think that was awesome. I really liked the website screen share because I think that helps people see visuals of like we're not just talking about it, we're showing you from an expert who builds websites all the time. Like here's why things are laid out the same way. And I think a really cool point to make is like you showed us several websites across different genres, which is awesome. They all looked different, but they all had the same elements. I think that's important. They all the backgrounds are different, the setting, the coloring, the wordings of the buttons, but they all have the same kind of structure and flow, which is get people on there, get people on your list, make more book sales. Like that's the whole show your personality as an author. Like that's the whole goal of that website. And regardless if it
Yeah.
was steamy romance or sci-fi or fantasy or more like the Indiana Jones, when I was seeing that background, I was thinking National Treasure right off the bat. I'm like, that's just exactly
Oh
what
yeah,
popped
no,
in my
that's
head.
exactly what it is. That's
And I'm
exactly what
like,
it is.
dude,
Yeah.
that right there, I don't even have to read the description. I already kind of understand what this
Yeah.
book is, which is awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's harder to do with the static background. I think the flowing and like
Yeah.
the things exploding and the sand and the gold, like that was so cool. So I think that's
Cool.
another thing to keep in mind if you're going to take things to that next level. Like it can just add a layer of interest for that person, like right off the bat. Um, so I think
And
that's
actually,
really
this
cool.
this reminds me of something I kind of missed that I think I should definitely just quickly add in before we end off. Is when somebody arrives on your website, you've got to make sure that they understand your genre and your unique kind of take on that genre. That's very important because if somebody comes on your website thinking it's a steamy romance and you're actually writing something else, you're definitely going to lose them when they start reading your books. So matching the whole imagery, the whole look and feel, that is probably one of the most important things, especially when somebody just arrives on your website. And hopefully you've got that down with your cover art and everything like that. But you really want your website to be an extension of your book brand as much as possible, as far as the colors and everything like that. So all that thing that you mentioned now just kind of made me think I better just mention that because it's a very important aspect of the website
Which
as a whole.
Which makes perfect sense because you don't, just because you have a website built around fantasy or sci-fi or romance, like that doesn't mean everybody that lands on that is the right person. So if the right message is being portrayed, that person should know in an instant, this is for me, this is not for me. And that
Yeah.
makes that's a great point because I tell the same thing to people when they're building their email list and trying to get their community built up. It's like, we're not going after everybody. Like you're not for everybody. You're a very unique individual and we're only looking for people in your genre. And even if you're like in a real subgenre, like we're going for, if you're romance but you write contemporary romance, we're not going after everybody in romance. We don't need steamy romance. Like maybe they read both, but like if your whole list is full of steamy romance but you're like clean contemporary, it's going to be a nightmare. They're going to read that first page
Yeah,
and be like, ah. like, you know
exactly.
so I think that's a good point. Everything needs to be on brand, on market, in line exactly with the author that you are, the books that you write, your style, your uniqueness. I think that, I mean, you said it. I can't say it any better than you. I mean, that is so, so important. So you nailed that one. So yeah, good point. I'm glad you didn't forget to say that because that's super important.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So I'll stop. I always tell people that I'm always done talking, and they know now that I never am, but I swear I am. So, like, is there anything else that you want to mention, touch on, reiterate, or maybe something we didn't talk about that you think's important? And then we'll let people know where to go find you. We already know they have place to go see where they can sign up for your list, get the freebie and stuff like that. So we'll have all that under there, but we'll just have you mention it real quick. But before that, anything else that you want to touch on before we hop off?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is like, I would just say, as far as an author website is concerned, if you absolutely can't do anything else, you can build one yourself. I wouldn't really suggest that, but definitely the main thing is just rather have an author website than not. Because, like I say, if you don't have one, it's just a wasted opportunity. Like some authors get pretty big before they even have a website. That's fine, but maybe they could have got there faster if there was just this extra tool that they used to just promote themselves. So, yeah, I would say I wouldn't worry if you're just small. I wouldn't worry about making the most, amazingly impressive, perfect website ever. Just get something up. It's better than nothing. But if you're bigger and you have the opportunity, you don't mind spending maybe a few $1,000s on something that looks really good. Um, it's definitely a wasted opportunity if you're not doing it. That's my personal opinion. That's definitely the kind of from the feedback of the authors we've worked with. Definitely the kind of thing that I get echoed back to us.
Okay, cool. So I lied. I got one more question.
Okay, no
People are pulling
problem.
their hair out.
Okay,
I this
go for
this
it.
just came to me because of what you said, and I think it's an important question. This isn't just some crazy tangent, people, that
Okay,
I can
we'll
do
treat it with
sometimes.
due importance.
Yeah, so if somebody is going to build their website by themselves, they're not super technically savvy, and they don't have the money to pay somebody, like they're just going to build a simple bare minimum website. What elements should they absolutely have? Things that they can leave out now, but like what are the things that if they're just going to build a real simple one, like you have to have this if this is going to be your website, and then you can expand on it later.
Well, I would say first, if you're not like basically a web designer yourself, find some sort of template system that already has everything pretty much exactly as close to exactly what you want to start with. Because as soon as you have to do a lot of custom changes in any website platform, doesn't really matter if it's Wix or WordPress or whatever, you're just going to get lost and you're kind of going to get stuck. And we have clients all the time like this. They tried to build something cool, but then they tried to make something fancy and they get stuck. And they're like, please do it for us. Yes, we'll do it for you. But so I would say if you really want to do it yourself, keep it very, very simple. Try to find some sort of template online that is very much, has what you want already. You're definitely going to want to feature your book or your books. You're probably starting out, so maybe you don't have so many. So definitely feature your book right away at the top. I'd say that's more important than featuring you, especially as a fiction author. And then have an about you, like make that interesting. Show people who you are. Um, a blog, I would say, is not essential. If you're not going to write a blog and you're not going to keep it up to date, just leave it out. A contact page is good because people are going to look you up, and maybe this person sees your work and they want to feature you for some series and something, or there's an incredible opportunity, but they can't reach you. Well, then you just lost it. So I'd say a contact page absolutely important. And then the sign up page. I mean, if you wanted to take it down to the absolute bare bones, that's what I would say. Feature your book. Obviously, as much information about your book as possible. A dedicated page for your book is even better. Show them where they can buy your book. Super important. Obviously, if they can't find the links to quickly buy your book, you're also wasting an opportunity. Um, an about page, a contact page, a blog page is great, but it's also kind of optional. A resource page is great, but it's also kind of optional. But if we're just sort of like take it down to the absolute bare basic essentials, I'd say that pretty much covers it.
So let's say a homepage that features your book and they can sign up, a dedicated sign up page, a contact page, and an about me page. So really only four elements you would
Yeah,
need if we're talking bare bones.
exactly. Yeah. But
Cool.
obviously, like if you want to really use the full potential of the website, then just go crazy and get everything resource pages, blog page. I mean, you want, especially as a fiction author, you want people to sort of like dive in this like river of like chocolate amazingness or whatever you want to call it and just, get lost in your website. Ah, this is amazing. I want more of this. And then, kind of fall in love with your work. It's an opportunity to get people to do that.
Yeah, take them on a ride before they read. Because when you're writing a
Yeah,
book, the whole point is to take them into a different world, like, let them escape reality. So when a website's done really well, you're just kind of lost in the sea of images and the personality of the author, and just kind of it's a really cool experience when it's done right. So that makes a lot of
exactly.
sense. Okay, cool. Last thing, I swear to God, that was so where where's the best place for people to go find you? And that free resource URL we can have at the bottom too, so people can go get that. That's probably really helpful. But like, so where would that be?
Yeah, so rocketexpansion.com, one word, rocketexpansion.com is our website. There's a tab in the menu, author websites. If you click on that, that tells all about our author website services. The free ebook, if you go on our blog page, it's right on the top of the blog page. You can also, that page I showed you is just rocketexpansion.com/author dash ebook. And that also takes you to the sign up page. But yeah, if you go on our blog, you'll easily see that free sign up as well.
Awesome. All right, Matt. I appreciate you taking the time. I think that was awesome. I think a deep dive into websites, but also simplified and kind of spoken on in a way that people can understand, because we all know technology, website, SEO, like all that can get crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we could have another talk where we get a little bit more into the weeds, but I think for the sake
Cool.
of the audience here, I think this was a perfect talk, and I think we took it down the right path. So I appreciate you being here and explaining all that and showing us the websites and breaking stuff down real simply. I think it's awesome, and I thank you for doing that. That was great.
Great. My pleasure. It was great to be on. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'll be back. If you ever want to answer those deeper questions or the audience has other questions, you know how to reach me.
Yeah, awesome. All right, hope everybody learned something, got some insight. I know I did. That's really cool. I'll definitely be talking to Matt off air about my own stuff because I know it needs it. So hopefully you guys got some value from this. And yeah, let's if you don't have a website yet, at least explore options, get in, kind of start thinking about it if you're at that stage yet. And thank you for everybody listening, watching, however you're taking this in, and we'll see everybody in the next one.